Welcome to the second series on well-being, neuroplasticity. As a child, we used our untethered imagination to create entire worlds, whether playing house, building sandcastles, or impersonating our unbeatable superhero. Happiness seemed as natural as breathing during these formative years, relatively speaking. Unfortunately, as adults, we yield to society's indoctrination that as we age, our brains lose their capacity to reconstruct, proliferate, and transform. Today in the second series, we are going to do a deep dive into how and why we can use our mind to change our brain for the better. But before we begin, I want to remind you to continue to ask yourself two foundational questions throughout this four-part series. The first question is, why is it that some people are more vulnerable to life's slings and arrows while others are more resilient? The second question is, how can we nurture this quality and promote more human flourishing to promote more resilience? Neuroplasticity is how you experience everything from perception of thoughts, images, feelings, and sensations. How you interpret that perception rewires the brain. So being aware in the present moment of that perception ultimately rewires the brain for conscious human evolution. In essence, neuroplasticity happens wittingly or unwittingly, and our brains are constantly being shaped by experience. Our brains are being shaped by forces around us about which we often have little control, but also frequently, if not most of the time, are unaware of this shaping. What is the invitation to reconceptualize well-being as a skill? It is that we can all take more responsibility for our own brains. One of the amazing discoveries that scientists have made is that by nurturing virtuous qualities of mind, we actually can promote positive changes in the brain. When human beings evolved on this planet, we did not all begin brushing our teeth. Yet I know that every one of you listening to me right now brushes your teeth probably a few times a day. It's a kind of physical personal hygiene. It may sound funny, but it's true. If we took our minds as seriously as we take our teeth, and if we nurtured our minds even for these few minutes a day in an intentional way, I have a strong conviction that this world would be a different place. So I would like you all to take part in this journey to make a commitment to spend as much time at least nurturing your mind as you do brushing your teeth. The data for this shows even a few minutes can make a difference. You ask, well, KJ, what are some practical applications of neuroplasticity? Glad you asked. Changes in the physical brain manifest as changes in our abilities through awareness. For example, each time we learn a new dance step, it reflects a change in our physical brain. New quote-unquote wires that give instructions to our bodies on how to perform the step. Each time we forget names, another example, it's also a reflection of brain change, lack of awareness. Wires, quote unquote, that once connected to the memory have been degraded or even severed. As these examples show, changes in the brain can result in, number one, improved skills with a new dance step, or two, weakening of skills, a forgotten name. Present moment awareness is the only place where change can occur and where illusions can begin to fall away. So, what is self-directed neuroplasticity? Not too long ago, scientists believed that once we reached adulthood, our brains were hardwired and we no longer had the ability to form new neural connections. In the past 2 decades, however, that idea has been refuted. A myriad of scientific studies have documented that the brain has a quality called plasticity, the ability to form new neural pathways well into aging years. It refers to the ability for nerve cells to change through new experiences. Hebb's law was proposed by Donald Hebb, a psychologist considered the father of neuropsychology because he was able to merge the world of psychology with the world of neuroscience. This was accomplished largely through his work called The Organization of Behavior, a neuropsychological theory, which was published in 1949. In this work, he described how neuronal activities influence the connections between neurons. In essence, what you have is Hebb's law, which states that neurons that fire together wire together, as you can see in this diagram. The human brain contains 85 to 100 billion neurons, all of which are receiving and relaying messages from other neurons. Whenever you repeat an action like swinging a golf club, the related neuronal synapses form neural connections. So next time you swing a golf club, that movement will require less energy, relatively speaking. The term for this structural and functional change in the brain as it adapts is what we call neuroplasticity. That said, self-directed neuroplasticity is your ability to change your own brain by applying it in a particular way. Your ability to intentionally choose how your brain models itself is what we refer to as self-directed. For instance, thinking positive thoughts has been shown to produce epigenetic changes in the brain. Whatever is preoccupying your mind today is building your brain of tomorrow. That can be a positive or negative perception depending on the mindset you're carving into your brain. And so, in that essence, the area of the brain called the hippocampus, which you can see from my drawing here, this brown part, has a unique capacity to generate new neurons every day. And as such, it becomes critical to shape constantly rearranging neural connections in helpful ways. You ask, well, KJ, how do I take full advantage of self-directed neuroplasticity? Before we dive into that explanation, let's acknowledge a key part of the mind-brain behavior enigma. What flows through your mind sculpts your brain. Thus, you can use your mind to change your brain for the better. Meditation is a form of mental training which you can use to help build positive qualities of mind like focus, vitality, and joy. As a human, you're uniquely capable of deliberate mind training. No other animal has this ability. Of course, the brains of other animals do undergo neuroplasticity changes, forming neural circuits, and they can learn, but none can do so consciously. The main mechanism behind meditation's transformative potential is self-directed neuroplasticity. You're using your mind to change the brain like a kid needing Play-Doh. It's empowering, and you're in control of your own mental fitness. Let's say you want to improve your attention muscles, say. If you practice a concentration meditation technique, repeatedly bringing your wandering mind back to your breath, for example, you begin to sculpt a strong attention. Repeatedly applying your mind in a particular way strengthens those neural connections. Soon your mind effortlessly and habitually takes on those mental states. You know those people who seem so naturally attentive, happy, and full of energy? And we know a few of those, right? Each. We all have access to this way of being. We do. Your mind is not a fixed entity. That's the most inspiring part about self-directed neuroplasticity. It means you can shape your mind any way you'd like. Each of us has the power and even responsibility to create the mind we want. Scientists have found that experienced meditators' brains look different. They exhibit An enlarged prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational decision making, smaller amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain, thicker hippocampus, which is key for learning and memory, and overall increased gray matter, which of course is referring to the brain's ability for processing power. In that sense, this rewiring doesn't happen overnight, of course, but you can start the process with as little as 5 minutes per day. And that, again, has been shown to create neuroplastic changes. What few people realize is that anyone can sculpt their mind and at the same time improve their perception of the world in each moment. I would love to hear from each of you the mind sculpting techniques you use. Stay tuned for the 3rd series of a 4-part series on well-being, a reconceptualized skill. Until then, namaste.